Hello everyone and welcome to another session of AP Human Geography with Mr. Elrod. We're continuing on in Unit 2. Today we're going to start with a new topic in population, though. We're going to look specifically at migration and populations movement. This is becoming a more and more important topic as we move into the future, because what we're seeing across the world is an increased migration. So we're seeing more and more people start to move from one country to another, from one region to another. Mobility is really starting to improve and increase across the world. Now, this is happening for a couple of reasons. Number one, I guess you could look at these in either order. Maybe I have them backwards according to some. But anyway, so we have improved technology in terms of transportation technology. So we have faster and easier methods of movement of people. Not only that, the cost of transportation and travel is starting to decline, and so people are able to have greater access to that. But not only that, in terms of technology, you also think about information technology, something that allows people to be aware of other places to go. So they're aware of more places around the world where they can travel to, and they're more aware of different jobs that are available in different parts of the world. So it's not just transportation technology, mainly in the forms of airplanes and things along those lines, which allow people to move much more quickly across larger spaces, but also information technology, again, about the information people can get about a new place. I mean, you can essentially get a job and find a place to live over the internet, and so those things are going to facilitate the move of people. But then you have the increased wealth that's taking place across the world. Across the world, we have countries are becoming wealthier. We look at the newly industrialized countries, or we look at maybe some of those BRIC countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China. Some throw S in there, BRICS for South Africa. So you have these increased middle classes that are growing all across the world. So more people are gaining wealth, which means they have the means to move to a new location. But not only that, if they have more money, they're probably better educated, and are capable of getting a better paying job in another country somewhere. So anyway, these things are allowing people to have greater freedom in their mobility and in their ability to move to a new place. So we're seeing increased movement of people across the world. And so this is going to be really important, especially as we talk about globalization. We talk about people interacting with each other. You also think about the job place, the workforce, and the job marketplace, because there's going to be greater competition for jobs. And not only that, you're going to have greater impacts on locations as new people begin to move in. So we look at the impact. So we want to think of it in of course, human geography. We don't want to just think about what's happening. We want to think about why it's happening, where it's happening. Of course, what's going to be the effect or the impact of that. So as we look at people moving across the world and moving to new places, think about the impact that's going to have. And these are just a couple of things we can consider. What is going to be the impact on the culture? Are we going to have what type of culture mixture is going to take place? Are we going to have acculturation? Are we going to have assimilation? Are these people going to bring their new culture to their new home that they're moving to? What's going to happen to the economics of a place as you have new people moving into the workforce? What's going to happen to the native population? Of course, how are they going to respond to that? What we find in times of prosperity, a lot of times the movement of people doesn't really bother the native population all that much. But typically in times of economic recession, we tend to see a much more hostile take on new individuals, especially as the line out there gets to be that they're taking the jobs, and people look for scapegoats to I guess maybe help them feel better about their situation. So you think about the economics, not just the jobs, but also think about the new money that's coming into the marketplace based on those new people that are there, and maybe some of the new businesses and ventures that will come in because of these new people in order to suit the needs of the new individuals that are moving in. Think about the impact on the environment in terms of the modifications that have to happen to the environment in order to accommodate the new people that are coming in, especially maybe because they want to interact with the environment in a different kind of way. They might require or request different types of housing, or they might be comfortable in a different type of housing, or something along those lines. But anyway, so as more people move in, you have to think about what's going to happen to the environment. We're going to have to house more people. That probably means more cars will be on the road. We're going to have to provide more food for people. You're going to need more water, more electricity. So these are some things we consider as we look at the different population movements and trends around the world. Of course, when we're looking at human geography, we want to think about where are things happening. Of course, there are several different scales we could look at. We could look at global migration trends and patterns, and this graphic here kind of gives you a good understanding of where are people moving globally. There are some trends that we notice as we look across the world as to where people are and are not moving to. But then we can also think about regional across countries. Think about regional areas around the world, and we see some definite trends taking place. And of course, you can look locally, and we'll really look at all three of these when we look at this particular section of the unit. We'll look at global trends, we'll look at regional trends, especially across some of the major regions in North America, South America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. But then also in the United States, we'll look a little bit more locally and look at some of the interregional migration trends within the United States, specifically referring to movements from the west to the southwest, and then the north and northeast to the south. So those are all things that we want to be aware of. And again, this graphic illustrates that pretty well. It doesn't necessarily get to some of the regional and local movements, but anyhow, it just helps us a little bit. So if we look at population movement, there's some terms we need to know. Of course, the first one that we need to know, and of course this is really kind of the foundation of this particular section, is called migration. When we talk about migration, the definition essentially is when one person or a person permanently moves from their home region to another region. And you notice it's this idea of permanent movement. Okay, it's not the idea of migration is not a temporary move or anything like that, but it's a permanent movement from one's home region moving to another region. And to be a little bit more specific, the idea is that they need to cross some sort of administrative boundary from where they were to the next place. So when we think about migration, it is a permanent movement of a person to another place, and they need to cross an administrative boundary. Now, there are two forms of immigration, or two ways we talk about immigration. You have immigration with the I-M-M, and this means when we move to a place, moving into a place. So think of immigration as in migration, somebody moving into a place, and then emigration with an E, which means to move out of a place. So think about exit migration. So in migration and exit migration might help you to remember that a little bit. And of course, these are going to be important when we think about where people are going to and where people are leaving if we want to study the different trends around the world. And so when you look at immigration and emigration, we have what's called two results of that. We have what's called net in-migration. And of course, this simply means that you have more immigrants, people moving in, than immigrants, people leaving. And of course, both of these ideas are going to be important. So next, net out migration, more immigrants than immigrants, more people exiting and coming in. Both of these are going to be important because if we look at a place that has net in migration, obviously that must be somewhat of a desirable place to be. More people are moving in than are leaving, and so something is going on in that place that is drawing people to it. Has the pull factors, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. And then the exact opposite with net out migration, something must be happening that's causing people to leave that place, and so it hopefully will drive us to further study of those particular places. And so when we look at migration and migration patterns, we begin to notice what are called migration streams. So essentially a migration stream is just looking at where is it that a large number of people are moving to. If we go back to our graphic that we had just a few minutes ago, you can see some definite migration streams across the world. So some definite global migration streams, and so you can't ignore things like the movement of people from Mexico and Central America to North America. You have this large movement of people from India into Saudi Arabia. You have this large movement of people from Eastern Europe, from Central Asia into Russia, from Eastern Europe into Western European areas. So these would be, obviously very large migration streams, very difficult to ignore. So we want to look at where people are moving. Then, of course, that leads us to the why question. Why is it that people are moving to that particular place? Is it jobs that's available? Is it freedom for your governments? Is it the hope for just a better life, some better educational opportunities? What is it that's drawing people to that particular place? And then, of course, you also look at, well, why are people leaving the other place? So again, hopefully these, when you notice these migration streams, you're driven to further questioning. And then we'll also notice that every migration stream is going to create what's called a counter stream, where people begin to move against the current migration stream. Essentially, anytime somebody moves into a place, people are going to be moving out of a place for any particular reason. And a lot of it has to do with, maybe the place becomes too crowded, so the people that are living there initially decide that they want to move somewhere else. It could be they have some sort of problem. They have issues with the type of people that are moving in. Maybe it's an ethnic issue, maybe it's a racial issue, it's a religious issue, so the people don't take kindly to the folks that are moving in. It could be that with all these new people moving in, the culture of the neighborhood begins to change, so the native people feel uncomfortable and they feel like they're not welcome anymore. Maybe the new people start getting involved in local government, and so they don't feel like they're represented well in their local government, and so they feel the need to move, whatever it happens to be. But there always is some sort of movement against the current migration stream, and so it helps to create kind of this balance as people move in and out of areas. So anyway, that's our introduction to migration with some basic terms and ideas, and we will see you next time.